the Purdue Boilermakers.
You're
Watch out.
smoking crack. Even though they're defending national champions, I feel like people are not talking about them. This is a team that was number one in high school recruiting in the Big 12 over the last 5 years, so they've got the talent. This is a big year for Lincoln Riley.
Penn State's going to win all the games you expect them to win, like they've been doing, but I think they're going to come up short in those big games again.
We have to let Will talk, all right? And he's in a closet for a reason, all right? There's a reason he's not allowed in the studio with me. What's going on, guys? Welcome in to the Set It Off Network. I am your host, Michael Sedetall. Will Volk is joining us from his closet again. And as you can see, you're probably wondering why I'm wearing a hard hat, right? I mean, you're watching this. We're talking college football. Why is he wearing a hard hat? Look like he's going to work. Well, we are going to work tonight. We're going to work on the Big 10 and the Big 12, the blue collar of America's conferences. These two conferences are bred and bled for on the field every week, talking about defense. We're talking about special teams. We're talking about teams that don't have a chance to win championships but are just fun to watch, because that's what we're doing tonight. We are Blue Collar America's podcast network tonight.
Blue collar.
All right.
What, we're throwing our hats now?
We're done with that. We don't want your SEC, all right? We don't want your fantastic ACC teams. We don't want any of that stuff, all right? You know what we want, Will? What do we want, Will?
Well, I like the SEC, but no, this is the big show. I know it's an actual show.
We want teams
but
like Iowa. We want to talk punting. Like, who doesn't want to talk college football and who doesn't want to talk punting? Right, Will? Like, punting is how we get to all the stuff you see on Sports Center and stuff like that. That's how we get to it. We get to it by kickoffs, punts, field goals. It's just a wonderful time. And like I said, we're going to be talking anything and everything about the Big 10 and the Big 12 tonight on our preview. Like I said before, Will Volk's joining us live from his studio. It just so happens to be a closet. What's going on, Will?
Yeah, big show. We're previewing two conferences with big in the name. Something else that's going on, like as we're recording this, the New Heights podcast with the Kelsey brothers and Taylor Swift is airing. It's got like 1.3 million people watching live, and I just wonder if our podcast might be able to do similar numbers, because this is a big show. Big 10, Big 12, big stuff.
Big show, big numbers. I like the energy. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in it, all right? We're going to be talking about the Big 10 here first. And as you guys know, the Big 10 has been dominating college football. As of lately, we got back-to-back national champions out of the Big 10. Michigan in 2023, even though they cheated, we don't count it unless you get caught type thing around here, all right? Matter of fact, we respect you for trying, all right? And then you had Ohio State last year. Last year's so-called Cinderella story, a team that barely makes the playoffs and kind of shows the world why the expanded playoff was pretty stupid, because you let really talented teams like Ohio State and you give them life after life after life, and what do? They put it together for 3 to 4 games and end up national champions. And Will, what do you got to say about the Big 10 as a whole? Like, what is your outlook on the Big 10?
Yeah, I mean, I usually don't pay much attention to them, but I think we got to pay attention to them now because, like you said, they've won the last 2 national championships. And, I mean, you're obviously going to have your big dogs, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. Can they finally win a big game? I don't know. Those are your 3 big favorites, of course, but you might have some sleeper teams, too, waiting in the wings, waiting for their opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And we love sleeper teams on this team. Like, that's what we preach around here. We want the underdogs to win. We want chaos. Well, we talk about it every year. Even before we did the podcast, that's what we root for. Most of the time when our teams are out of it, which is usually very early in the season, exception for South Carolina last year. But usually, very early in the season, we kind of know our teams aren't going anywhere. And so we just root for chaos. And I believe that's how a majority of college football fan bases look at things. So let's take a look at the odds to win the Big Ten. All right. So obviously, the defending champs sitting here at plus 185, the favorites to win this conference. But a team that everybody is talking about this offseason, Will, is Penn State. They're sitting right behind Ohio State at plus 230 with the second best odds to win the Big Ten, which is something they haven't done since 2016. And James Franklin has a lot of questions about can he win the big game. And you got to feel, if you're Penn State, is this going to be the year? It feels like your window is closing. You bring back such a talented roster, a star-studded quarterback. You go fill needs in the portal that you need. What are you thinking about this Penn State team as we roll into 2025?
Yeah, I mean, you would think, hey, they got all these pieces coming together. Maybe they're going to make some noise this year. But I'm kind of in the camp of I'll believe it when I see it. You mentioned last time they won the Big Ten championship. It's been like almost 10 years now, right? I think it was 2016 they went and beat Ohio State in Happy Valley in the whiteout. And I can't remember them beating one of those big dog teams ever since then. It seems like you can count on them losing to Ohio State every year. And this year they got to go to Columbus. I'm not counting on them winning that game just because it's like a believe it when I see it kind of thing. They do get Oregon at home. That's going to be a whiteout atmosphere this year. I know they've been complaining the last few years. Come on, give us a real opponent for the whiteout. Now they got it with Oregon this year, but I'm not counting on them winning that game either. I'm just more of a Penn State's going to win all the games you expect them to win like they've been doing, but I think they're going to come up short in those big games again until proven otherwise.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a bad blood here now. Obviously, Penn State and Ohio State don't like each other, but a lot of people forget that Penn State actually stole Ohio State's defensive coordinator from their national championship team in Jim Knowles. So a guy like Tom Allen leaves after one season. He goes to Clemson, and James Franklin goes in there and makes an ultimate power move by going to his rival and stealing right off of that staff. But I want to talk about Ohio State because I feel like Ohio State, even though they're the defending national champions, I feel like people are not talking about them in the context that we've talked about past champions. This is a team that obviously has probably the best player on offense and the best player on defense in the entire college football. You have an absolute alien in Jeremiah Smith, who's probably going to win the Heisman if any one of these quarterbacks can get him the ball. And then you have a guy who transferred in there last year in Caleb Downs, who's the best safety, best defensive player in the entire country. The thing that excites me most about Ohio State is this quarterback battle, because a lot of people thought the Alabama transfer, Julian Sand, was going to knock this thing out of the park in spring. But we are still sitting here 2 weeks into fall camp, and we still have a quarterback battle that's going down to the wire with Lincoln Holtz. And Ryan Day has said it multiple times in press conferences that this isn't just for show. Like, he really thinks that both guys have a chance to win the job now. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, open up with a huge game there at Texas, or against Texas. So you automatically coming out there and you have the favorite to win the Big Ten versus the favorite to win the SEC. And you know those two conferences, they're going to be compared to each other all season long, especially when it comes later in the year and we're talking about playoff spots.
Yeah, that game on week 1 there, August 30th, it really feels like it's going to set the tone for the season, because here you have a rematch of last year's semifinal game. People think Texas is the SEC's best. People think Ohio State's the Big Ten's best. Who comes out winning that game will kind of set the tone. Who's the better of the Power 2 conferences, Big Ten, SEC. Bam, right out of the gate, you get a big one on week 1.
Yeah, and a team that it feels like just nobody is talking about, because it feels like they just haven't proven themselves on the big stage. But we forget Oregon, who sits here third on the odds list at plus 360. You really have three huge favorites here in the Big Ten, and then there's a big gap between the top three and the rest of the conference. But Oregon is that team that, like I said, is coming off of a Big Ten championship, their first year in the league. They have a new quarterback. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel experiment went extremely well last year, but this Oregon team is always going to be one of the most talented teams in the country. Dan Lanning has done an incredible job at recruiting from the high school ranks and adding through the portal in different spots. But this is a team that loses a lot as well, kind of similar to Ohio State, right? And they get a big transfer portal class coming here with tons of new top-tier offensive linemen to replace a guy in Mekhi Hughes who was over 1,000-yard rusher last year at Tulane to kind of stabilize that backfield. But the missing piece for Oregon here is obviously the quarterback. Everybody is looking at Dante Moore, the kid, 5-star, goes to UCLA with Chip Kelly. It doesn't really work out for him at UCLA. And one of the biggest unknowns in college football is what are you going to get from Dante Moore this year? What do you think about the Ducks this year, Will?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great year last year for them. 13-0, Big Ten champions. Welcome to the Big Ten. They go in, win in their new conference. But, man, that Rose Bowl for them last year, what a devastating way to end the season. They come back this year. I feel like you got to like what Dan Lanning's going to put together, and the Ducks should be right up there again. This year, they do avoid Ohio State in the regular season, right? So that's one last big test. Of course, you got to go to Penn State, another one of those top three teams, and playing in Beaver Stadium with the whiteout at night, it's going to be a big test for them. But, yeah, I think Oregon, that's a team that's going to be 10-2, possibly 11-1. Hey, even 12-0, who knows? They're going to be like right up there in the mix, though.
Yeah, of course, there's tons of teams in the Big Ten now. There's about 50 of them, I believe I counted when we were going over this little preview here. But it really feels...
What's the point of 10 in the name? There's way more than 10 teams.
Well, the Big 18 doesn't really roll off the tongue the same way, you know? So we're going to roll into our next segment. We're going to talk about coaches on the hot seat, specifically in the Big Ten still. We're going to keep it here, but we're going to talk about more of those programs that probably you're not seeing in preview magazines and stuff like that. But the first team I really want to talk about is USC, one of the most intriguing teams, I think, this year in the Big Ten. But this is a big year for Lincoln Riley. I feel like Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly are on the same path here, getting hired in the same year. Expectations for prestigious programs are at an all-time high. Now, I will say Brian Kelly and LSU probably reloaded with more talent this year, but USC is still sitting there just lurking in there in the Big Ten, and a lot of people even forget that they're even in that conference. But Southern Cal has a lot to replace via the portal this season, and they're putting a lot of faith in Jaden Miava, who took over for Miller Moss last season, late in the year, and they have a brutal road schedule this season, Will.
Mm-hmm. And it's a big year for the University of Southern California.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm representing the real USC.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a big test, though, for Lincoln Riley. And what are we in, year 4 now? He came over there, sky-high expectations. Lincoln Riley coming to a big brand like this. He's going to be able to recruit California. They're going to be an unstoppable force. And they have that, pretty good first season. They show up in the Pac-12 championship game, 11-1 through the regular season. And then the last couple years, man, they've been pretty middle of the Pac team, and it kind of does feel like make or break year. Hard to imagine that after the expectations for Riley were so high, but yeah, he's got to get something figured out this year.
You know what the funniest thing? So Will, when I say the I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to. I'm going to call them The University of Southern California.
Or
Because
USC West. You can do that.
okay, I don't think our viewers are gonna like that much, but it is what it
Yeah.
is. This is what we do. All right, but when I say USC on the West Coast, right? What do you think about when you think about USC? You think about offense, right? You think about Lincoln Riley and all those Heisman Trophy winners and stuff. Well, this year's USC team is built different, right? They made the defensive coordinator hire last year, and you saw immediate progress. And this year, a lot of people in USC circles are saying the defense is far and ahead of the offense. So you could see a USC team getting back to its roots here and playing a little Big Ten football, playing a little defense this year. It's just, man, Lincoln Riley got dealt a tough card this year. They have tough road games. They go to Illinois. They play at Notre Dame this year, at Oregon, and at Nebraska. Those are four rough venues. Illinois, obviously, one of those teams that surprised a lot of people last year. Notre Dame, obviously, is going to be a top 10 team probably all season long. And to me, I feel like Nebraska is one of those teams that is up and coming in the Big Ten. And obviously, it's never easy going into Lincoln, Nebraska and winning a football game. And then, hands down, obviously, Oregon is what it is. One of the toughest environments to play in all of college football in Oregon. Not only because the team's so good, but that stadium gets rocking on Saturday nights up there in Eugene.
Yeah, certainly. And you look at some of their home games, too. That one against Michigan in October definitely stands out to me right there. Two big-time names going at it in the middle of the season. And I think it's kind of two teams that underperformed last year, trying to take another step up. And it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top in that one.
So let's move on to another coach that I think people don't even realize is still in the Big Ten, right? You heard so much about him when he made the transition, and it looked like a slam dunk hire at the time, and that is Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. I mean, this guy takes Cincinnati to the playoffs, right? Gets hired at Wisconsin. It's the whole Big Ten rebranding, throwing tons of money at football, like. This was a home run hire. Like, if you would have asked me that year who made the best coaching hire of the all season, it was 100% Wisconsin. He fit everything that they wanted to do, but things have not went well in Madison as of lately. Now, they do not have a favorable draw this year. It is some tough luck again for the Wisconsin Badgers. They draw probably the worst schedule. They get 7 out of the top 10 teams in the Big Ten for preseason. A new OC again this year. So you're making a coordinator hire. You've got a brand new quarterback. And it just feels like the boulder is getting so big up there for Luke Fickell to hold up. And I just don't see how he makes it through another year up there in Wisconsin.
Yeah, you mentioned all those tough Big Ten games, but don't forget they have a trip down south to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, week 3. So it doesn't get easy in the non-conference either. At this point, what do you think is maybe a good enough record for Luke Fickell to stick around in Madison with that tough of a schedule?
Man, I'm telling you, I don't think Wisconsin fans are going to be happy. I'd say the minimum, and I'm talking about bare minimum, it has to be bowl game. Like, you have to go 6-6 this year, or I don't even know if they fire him because they invested a lot. They really did invest a lot of money into getting Luke Fickell. There were teams like Notre Dame, big teams that were after Luke Fickell after that Cincinnati run, and Wisconsin was able to get him. And like I said, everybody thought it was a slam dunk hire, and it just hasn't panned out yet. They haven't found that quarterback. They go get a guy from Maryland who started last year for the Terps. Billy Edwards, new OC. Jeff Grimes, they're running more of a pro-style offense now, kind of getting back to what Wisconsin football was. And the thing you hear about Wisconsin is the offensive line. And for years, this was an offensive lineman factory. Like, I'm talking about NFL dudes everywhere on this offensive line. And they just haven't been able to run the ball and sustain offensive drives. They haven't had a top 5 offense in the Big Ten in over over 5 years. So I mean, it's been a while since they've got things going offensively, and that's definitely something that's going to have to change. But it's definitely not going to be easy with that schedule.
No, not at all. Speaking of coaches on the hot sheet, I took a hot seat. Okay, I'm all mixed up because the next thing I was going to say was sheet, because I saw your little cheat sheet previewing this, and you said Michigan is another program that has something to be worried about. Just wondering if you can explain that.
Well, to me personally, I have a vendetta against Michigan. All right, we're gonna take a break. All right, from getting into the weeds here. We're just gonna talk about me and my relationship with Michigan as of right now, Will. I know, Will, you don't really follow recruiting too much,
But
but
I do know about Bryce Underwood.
and yeah, it made national headlines. I think everybody knows at this point what happened and how Michigan, got the CEO of Oracle to donate millions and millions of dollars, and it just so happened uh, that Bryce Underwood had a change of heart the week before. He wasn't really in love with LSU. He wanted to go to Michigan the whole time. Is what I keep trying to tell myself. No matter how much he badmouthed them and talked bad about him in interviews while he was committed, um, in his heart he always knew he was going to Michigan, and it never was an LSU thing. He played us the entire way. But on a real note, all right, now that we're done with my little violin over here, and Bryce Underwood going to Michigan has turned out to be a blessing for LSU in disguise, I think. But as far as Michigan as a whole, this is a team with an over/under of 8.5 this year. I just don't know where those 8 wins, nine, if they get to 9 wins, I really just don't see where they come from. I don't think this team is going to take a huge leap offensively, even with Bryce Underwood. I mean, you have tough road game at Oklahoma early in the season. You got Brent Venables and that defense with a true freshman quarterback on the road. That's not ideal. If I'm a Michigan fan, I'm not really looking forward to that. But Michigan as a whole, we've seen the staleness of this offense for multiple years, and last year, I think people are putting so much of an emphasis on how they finished the year, with obviously huge wins against Ohio State and Alabama, two of the premier programs in college football. And I'm not trying to knock that, but I think people are putting a little too much emphasis and importance on those wins and what they're going to be leading into this year. They did a good job in the transfer portal. They got some guys. I just think they're going to regress defensively, and I don't see the offense making these bounds and leaps that everybody seems to think that Bryce Underwood is going to do.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay. 8-9 wins, like you say, is totally realistic. But I also think Sharon Moore is going to be okay. Here's a guy who's 2-0 against Ohio State. That's very important. This guy cannot lose to Ohio State. It's kind of like Urban Meyer. He can't lose to Michigan. And if I'm a Michigan fan, hey, who cares whatever else is going on? This guy can beat Ohio State. Keep him around.
Yeah, man, that, us being from down south, man, it's all about the rivalry games. People don't even care. You looked at Michigan fans all over social media last year, even after Ohio State went on to win the national championship, and none of them cared. And
Yeah, it
you
didn't
know,
matter. We
you
still
know
beat
it's
you.
eating alive Ohio State fans that they can't get over this Michigan thing. And that's the next phase for Ryan Day and this team. They've won the national championships. They've won the Big Ten. They have got to figure out how to get over that Michigan hump. But I want to talk about two names, all right, to finish off this hot seat segment.
Oh, no. Is that you or me?
That's you, man. House is burning down out here.
House is burning down.
We'll cut this out.
Maria. We back. Everything's all good. My fiance is smoking. Not smoking like cigarettes, but she was taking a shower. There was a lot of steam. So I think that's what set it off. Set it off! You see what I did there?
There we go.
Unintentionally. Haha. New
Boom.
hat. Third one of the show. Let's go.
And speaking of smoking and steaming, you know who's really smoking and steaming? That is the UCLA and Maryland head coaches. You got Mike Loxley out here. You got UCLA is in some trouble. Trip Kelly left this program, and he left it bare. The cover was absolutely bare. But a lot of people think of UCLA and they think about the Nico drama over the summer, but that's literally it. Like, you have a quarterback. Yeah, you've got a quarterback that played games in the SEC this year or last year, and you really have nothing else. You're 16th out of 18 teams in recruiting. You're 13 out of 18 in transfer portal. You are not replacing any talent. You are getting picked apart in the portal. People are going elsewhere. It's going to be a long year for my guys over there in Los Angeles and UCLA. But a team I want to talk about is Maryland, because a lot of people know Mike Loxley. They know he's been in Maryland a while now, but this is easily going to be the worst team in the Big Ten. I got Purdue over this team. All right, as far as win total, their win total is 4.5. Well, 4.5 is not a lot. All right, and if they only get 4 wins this year, if they get anything less than that, which I think they are, Mike Loxley's gone, man. You can't do what he's been doing. And the worst part is he is killing it in recruiting. Like, he is top 7 in Big Ten recruiting. And you wouldn't know because they have no retention. Every single player they recruit leaves and goes to another program. So it's going to be a rough year for the Terps. It's going to be a rough year for Mike Loxley. He's going to be looking for a coordinator job at the end of this year. I pretty much guarantee that.
I want to see their schedule because you can only find 4 wins on that schedule.
I couldn't even find 4. I think I had them going 3-9. I think I had them 3-9 and 0-9 in the Big Ten.
Wow.
They win their first 3 games though. They do win their first 3. I did have them winning their first 3 non-conference games.
All cupcake teams?
Yes, very much so. So they're going to have a rough year this year. It is not a fun year to be a Maryland Terrapin. Just not good times there. All right, so we're going to move into our next segment. We're going to talk about the most important games here in the Big Ten. We always look in. Obviously, we talk about schedule so much in college football because your schedule really makes or breaks you these days now, especially with the 12-team playoff. People think 10-2 is equivalent to 8-4 in other leagues, and it just throws a monkey in everybody's wrench, if you know what I'm saying. So there's some games that I want to talk about, Will, and obviously the first one is marquee, week 1, like we were talking about earlier, Texas at Ohio State. And this is a huge game for the Buckeyes because I really think with them rebuilding, if they can find a way to get a win over the SEC favorites going into the year, preseason number 1, Arch Manning, all that good stuff, they can find a way to get a win in there. That could propel the Big Ten to receive multiple bids into the playoff. I don't think Ohio State fans really realize that. Obviously, they just want to win the game. But as far as the conference as a whole, this game is just as important as any conference game that any team's going to play the whole season.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. We talked about this in our last episode about how important these early season non-conference games are, setting the tone, and this is something the committee could very well be looking at once December rolls around. Who wins this game? SEC, man. SEC's take their lumps after the last couple seasons with them not even making the national championship game. Big Ten now winning 2 straight natties. So they're going to be out for some revenge against the Buckeyes in week 1. I know Texas, new addition to the conference pretty much. But, yeah, that's going to be a big-time SEC Big Ten showdown.
And another one I want to talk about is a game that nobody's talking about. First of all, I just picked this because I really think these 2 teams are going to help the weight of the overall conference. And when I say this, you're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? You must be talking about basketball. But I'm not. It's Illinois at Duke in week 2. And nobody is talking about it. And you see this Illinois team, they win 10 games last year. You have the Duke team that won 9 games last year. And these are two middle tier to upper tier Big Ten teams that if you can get a big win over another conference with a team that's either equal or better to you, then it goes a long way in the way the playoffs shake out because it makes everybody's strength of schedule go up. So I think Illinois at Duke early in the season, that's a huge game for both of these teams and also to propel them into having a great season.
Yeah, that's a good one. You're right. That's not one that many people think about. You think week 2, big non-conference showdown, Michigan at Oklahoma, but you also have Illinois at Duke that week. Not the biggest Illinois fan over here after the way that bowl game went down in December when Illinois played South Carolina. I was kind of frustrated during that game. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. Illinois, Brett Bielema, they certainly have some high expectations after what happened last year, a 10-win season.
What is one game that you're looking forward to, Will? It might not be that most important, but it is just like marquee box office. You got to see it this year in the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, there's the obvious ones. We've talked about them before. You got Oregon going to Happy Valley, big-time test. Then you got Michigan going to USC October 11th, 2 blue bloods going at it. Those are going to be some interesting games. And I'm sorry you asked for one, but I'm very, very interested in seeing Ohio State travel to Michigan the final week of the season because, Michigan's got to be really in their heads right now. I mean, Ryan Day had it all in front of him last year. He had a super team, and he had him at home against Michigan. They're going to kill him by like 50 points. Michigan still wins. He's just very fortunate that the playoff expanded to 12 teams, and he was able to redeem the season, but that's going to be interesting. It's still going to be a really interesting game despite the lower stakes now because of the playoff.
Yeah, for sure. Those are the marquee games that everybody in the Big Ten, big noon kickoff, they're going to be at all of those games, right? The games kind of that are under the radar that I like to kind of dig deeper into the schedule to find, and 2 of them feature Nebraska. And not only do they feature Nebraska, they feature Nebraska in Lincoln, and that is when Michigan comes to town against Nebraska and when USC comes to town against Nebraska. I think this is another one of those swing season kind of games for both of these teams in Michigan and USC, where if they can go onto the road and beat a team like Nebraska, who I think is really going to be good this year, if they can go on and steal a win on the road, that could propel them not only to having a good season, but we could be talking playoffs and different things like that if you go on the road and win a game like that.
Yeah, and Nebraska's really interesting. I'm going to be very interested to see what they do. Matt Rule's a proven college coach, and it seems like he's definitely got Nebraska going back in the right direction. Bowl eligible last year, first time in who knows how long. Nebraska fans can probably tell you. I think it's 7 years. But, yeah, just interested to see if they can just take that next step.
For sure, because Matt Rule is one of those guys where he just builds programs. He builds them from nothing. He did it at Temple. He did it at Baylor. The NFL thing didn't really work out, but you can see the progress that they're making in Nebraska. That's kind of why I have Nebraska as my sleeper pick. If there's anybody outside of that top 3 group, all right, with Nebraska's schedule, they kind of can work around this thing and sneak into that Big Ten championship. And honestly, we've seen this before. It's probably more ideal that you don't play for the Big Ten championship or you lose the Big Ten championship because nobody wants to have that bye week. Everybody wants to go play their little cupcake G5 team as a Power 2 conference non-conference champion gets to. We saw it with Penn State. We saw it with Ohio State. They both get kind of ease your way into the playoff openers. I mean, Penn State, cakewalked their way all the way to a semifinal, until they played a team that was actually up to the standards of being in a playoff. And so Nebraska is kind of that team that could be like Penn State and not beat any of the marquee teams, but just sneak into the back because they just won all the games they were supposed to.
You want to know my sleeper team?
I do. I want to know it so bad.
The Purdue Boilermakers.
You're
Watch out.
smoking crack. What is wrong with you? This is about
No. I think here you got Barry Odom coming in, proven SEC coach. Also, I like your face. No, this is serious. But look at what he did at UNLV. Here's a program in UNLV that only had like one winning season in 2 decades. And then he comes to town. Boom, they're in like the top of their conference playing for the conference championship. They backed that up year or two. And now Purdue brings him in. And it's like the same approach. Total, complete turnover on the roster. It's like a brand new team. I think more than 50 new transfers. He had like the same approach at UNLV and it worked out. And hey, maybe it'll work out here at Purdue. Just remember this. Last year, Indiana went to the playoff, 11-1. You know where they were in 2023? They were last in the Big Ten. Purdue last in the Big Ten last year. These big turnarounds could happen. So just watch out. I think Purdue's going to overachieve.
Well, you know, like overachieving at Purdue is like 5 wins.
Yeah.
So,
well, what about 10 wins?
I literally didn't even make notes on Purdue. Like, they weren't even going to get mentioned. So, shout out, if you're a Purdue fan, go give Will a follow on any social media you possibly can because he is as big as of a nut job as you. He truly believed what he just said. And
yeah,
unfortunately,
they're my team to watch.
Unfortunately for the rest of us that use our brains and we think about college football and we watch the game, we know Purdue's going to be awful. All right, not as awful because I do think they're not going to be the worst team in the league this year. Matter of fact, I don't even think they're going to be the second worst team in the league this year. That's how high I am on Purdue. All right, my mom's a Purdue alum. All right, so I have a stake in the game here, and I still think Purdue's going to suck. And it's true, they are going to suck. But that's okay because it's year one and you have to rebuild everything. So I really didn't think we were going to spend however much time we just spent talking on Purdue. But we got there somehow. So
you're welcome, everyone. Bookmark this clip. We're going to have to check back on it. I'm going to be very interested to watch Purdue's progress. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But what if I'm right?
True. 2-10 is going to look terrible for Purdue after you say they're going to overachieve, and they might not even hit their over/under win total of 3.5. So let's talk about real sleepers, like teams that like have a legit chance of maybe not even winning the league, but just like being that Indiana team next year. You know, because there's a team in the Pacific Northwest that everybody forgets that's in there. You know, they just forget about them. Up there in Seattle, Washington, it's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring, all that good stuff up there. Washington has an over-under win total of 7.5, and I'm really high on the Huskies this year. I love Jed Fish. I love what he did at Arizona. I think the schedule gods went from making them have the toughest schedule easily in the Big Ten last year, and somehow they fought through that. They found themselves a little quarterback, all right? And this year they got blessed. They get 5 of the bottom 8, all right? And you get Oregon and Ohio State at home. So you play your best 2 opponents at home. We all know Seattle, Washington, and that stadium up there is legit. Like, don't let that fool you. That Pacific Northwest stuff gets crazy up there. All right, they drink a lot of Starbucks up there. They get riled up in Seattle. All right, so watch out for the Washington Huskies because they could be maybe not a team that even makes the playoff, but they could be a team that knocks off Oregon or Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for them, they have to play both of those teams, but if you have to do it, you get them at home. But yeah, I would think over 7.5 wins is definitely something that you can look out for from Washington this year.
All right, well, we're going to wrap this thing up, and we're going to do our predictions. All right? Now, You already went crazy on me with the Purdue stuff. All right, if you guys missed it, all right, this man picked Purdue to be like the Indiana of the Big Ten last year,
Yep.
which is not realistic, but we have to let Will talk, all right? And he's in a closet for a reason, all right? There's a reason he's not allowed in the studio with me. It's for specific reasons, just like when he said stuff like that, I prefer to throw stuff at him, and if he's allowed in the studio, I would throw stuff at him. So we put him in the
What's your
closet.
studio again?
This is Set It Off Studios, all right,
Okay.
and we put you in the closet, all right, because of situations exactly like the Purdue one, all right. So realistically, give me your prediction. Who do you think's coming out of the Big Ten this year? Who do you think their playoff teams are? All right, and who do you think wins the conference championship?
I mean, okay, Ohio State, in what world are they not going to be in the top 12? They're there every year. So I think you can count on them being a playoff team. Penn State's going to be right up there again. They're going to win all the games they're supposed to, so that should put them at 10-2. That's good enough to make it. Obviously, I don't see them beating Ohio State or Oregon until proven otherwise. So that's two. I think Oregon going to be good enough to make the playoff again this year. I mean, shocker, shocker, right? 3 teams. But I do think the Big Ten will get a 4th in this year. And you clown me for it, but Purdue, I think your facial expressions. But I've explained this already. I'm really high on Purdue. I think they're going to be this year's Indiana. Hey, sometimes bringing in all those transfers work. Barry Odom, it's proven he's done it at UNLV. I know the Big Ten's a different animal, but Purdue, the spoiler makers, they're my 4th team. I got Oregon and Purdue in the Big Ten championship game. Oregon,
All right,
Oregon, too much.
All right, you're done. You're done. Let me just finish this thing out on a serious note so people don't think we're just like over here just making things up like we live in some fantasy world. My conference championship is I think all 3 of those teams at the top are all going to finish the season 8-1. You talked about it. We talked about the schedules, and Oregon and Ohio State don't play each other this year. So you have the Oregon Penn State thing. I think Penn State gets it done against Oregon. I do think they dropped the one at Ohio State, and I think Ohio State's going to lose at Washington. I really do. I think that game falls at a tough place in the schedule. But I'm like you. I think 4 teams out of this conference are definitely going to get into the big dance. But my team is going to be Nebraska. I think this team's going to go 10-2, and I think they're going to pull a Penn State. I think they're going to do exactly what Penn State's done over the years. They're just going to lose to Ohio State. They're going to lose to Oregon or Penn State, and that's going to be the end of it. And they're not going to lose any of their other games. So that's a big risk because we all know how Nebraska is in one-possession games and the streak of not beating any ranked teams. Well, that's got to change this year if my prediction wants to come true. So.
Yeah, did you ever get my conference champ prediction, or was I giggling too much?
I think you said Oregon over Purdue, right?
Yeah, I got Oregon. I think they'll be too much for
You think
Purdue
the Ducks are
when
going to get
Purdue
it done?
makes it.
Back-to-back Big Ten championships to start your tenure in the Big Ten is a statement. Like, I got to say, that's impressive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think whoever Purdue plays in the Big Ten championship is going to win, whether Ohio State or Penn State gets there or whoever. But yeah, I just think enough chaos is going to happen that'll keep those big dogs out. But again, that's not bad for them. We saw it work out beautifully for Ohio State last year.
Yeah, we're not that far removed from Big Ten Purdue playing in the Big Ten title game. I mean, that was only a couple years ago. Granted, they lost by 85 points, but they were there. You know, they got a runner-up trophy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next conference. And this is America's conference, right? We have the American Conference down south and wherever the heck all those teams are from. But this is the heart of America's conference. Like, this is the conference that you're watching on Thursday night, on Friday nights, and they're not going to be college game day atmospheres. Like, You're not going to see old Herb Street there. You're not going to see Pat McAfee there talking Big 12 football, the realest football in America, and absolutely the wildest league in college football by far. We saw it last year with all the chaos that happened. You had a team that was projected to finish last in the Big 12, win the entire conference. So, Will, what are you thinking about the Big 12 this year?
Yeah, I just have my hand raised because I have a question.
All right.
If it's America's conference, why is one of their biggest games being played in Ireland?
Well, damn, Will.
God.
Well, we're just going to end the show here. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get a reset, all right? All right, we're back, and we are talking Big 12 football. All right, Will has done his thing again and proved why he is going to continue to do the show in the closet. All right, but let's take a look at the odds to win the Big 12 here. So you have 6 teams that are under plus 1,000 odds, all kind of grouped together. The lowest odd total is plus 550, and the highest odd total is plus 800. So you have less than 300 points in Vegas's mind that is separating 6 different teams. And you look at the top of this league, and I really feel like there is 1 to 8 teams that could possibly win this conference this year, Will. It is going to be the Wild West out there. It is going to be everybody beating everybody, and people are going to look at it at the end of the year, and we're probably going to have like a 2-loss Big 12 champion, and unfortunately for them, that's probably going to mean they're only going to get 1 bid in the playoff, but I think that's disrespectful to America's conference.
Hey, I'm with you, man. We talk about the SEC being deep, being the wild, wild west, but the Big 12, even more so. I have no idea who's going to win this thing. It feels like you can have anybody rise up and win the Big 12. We saw it last year. Arizona State was picked to finish like last, right? And then they went on, had a great year, won the Big 12. So who knows what's going to happen, but I do think the conference is going to eat itself alive, and I'm with you. I think Champion has no less than 2 losses out of this conference.
Yeah, would you believe me if I said that the Big 12 win totals for this year is 8.5 is the highest? That's the ceiling that Vegas is thinking. 9-3 is what Vegas thinks the conference champion is going to be at this year. You have a bunch of teams with 8.5 over-unders. You have a bunch of teams.
My light went out.
Jesus, Will. This is another reason.
I need that set it off studio. Hold on, let me get the overhead light, even though it doesn't look as good. Let me back in the studio, man. The closet.
This is why, though. You have to prove yourself. You haven't earned the opportunity because you can't perform well in the closet. We've already had a smoke detector going off. We've had the light going out. We've had you claim Purdue was going to be in the Big 10 championship. It's been a rough night for you, Will. You need to lock it in here.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about these win totals. We have 3 teams with 8.5 win over-unders, but then you have a mess of teams with 7.5 and 6.5 over-under win totals. And so you see that grouping of 7 to 9 teams that really all have a chance, if they have a big year, that could sneak into that Big 12 championship. But let's talk about the defending champs, because a lot of people aren't talking about Arizona State and what they did. Kenny Dillingham is running this thing like a old-style football program. You don't see guys hitting the portal. 78% returning production this year, which is unheard of these days. It's an old-school program. You start with Sam Leavitt, the quarterback there, who didn't play his best towards the end of the year in the playoff, and I got a feeling Sam Leavitt's going to take that next step for Arizona State, but you lose a guy like Cam Scatteraboo, and that was the offense. I mean, this dude took the nation by storm last year in the playoffs. I mean, they were throwing him the ball. He was running the ball. He was doing all kinds of stuff. He was receiving. He was doing everything. And he was the main focal point of that offense. So where does ASU turn this year to get that production, and you really can't replace a guy like that. But where does that come from this year? I think that's probably their biggest question. So I
Yeah.
think Arizona State is definitely going to be the favorite going into the season, but I could easily see Arizona State slipping up and falling back into that average category.
Yeah, but again, like you said, they have so much of the team coming back, and you just have to wonder, will one of those returners really step it up and become that leader on the team that you mentioned that they're looking for?
And the dark horse of the league this year is got to be Texas Tech. A lot of headlines, a lot of media coverage on Texas Tech lately because they are dumping money into that program. We are talking about $50+ million in NIL spent this past cycle on
Wasn't
recruiting.
Ohio State like 20 million last year?
And yes,
To
and they
so
signed most of the top players in the country. But this team reloaded. Like, they didn't just go out and get 4 or 5 great players. They went and retooled their entire roster. They are 2 and 3 deep. This is easily the most talented team in the Big 12. It's just about, are we going to get 2023 Florida State's transfer portal class where they go undefeated and look amazing? Or are we going to get 2024 where things don't really gel and you go 2-10? Because that's the reality of today's college football is you can go undefeated if everything clicks, but man, if they don't click, you fall like an absolute rock. But Texas Tech is definitely going to be one of those teams to watch out for in the Big 12 this year because there's a lot of expectations now for Texas Tech. When you get an investment like that from boosters, they want results, and it's going to be a tough year. You have to go at Utah, at Arizona State, and at Kansas State. So 3 really tough road games from the top tier teams in this league.
yeah, Texas Tech definitely had a tough draw, and that's the way the transfer portal goes, right? Florida State, great case study. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of like going to the casino and gambling. And if you saw a prior segment about me and Purdue, I was like, yeah, it's going to hit for them. Well, Texas Tech, is it going to hit for them? I could see it. They have a lot of talent coming in.
8.5 does, like, if you're really comfortable with who you're picking and you're really confident, 8.5 is not a big number. You know, like, all your team needs to do is go 9-3. If you feel really good about your team, I suggest you start betting Big 12 win totals because 8.5 is not a lot. The champion of this league is not going to have 9 wins. They are probably going to be 10-2, maybe even 11-1. But 8.5 is a low number. I was really surprised when I looked those up. But another one of those teams with that 8.5 win total is Kansas State. Kind of like the darling of the Big 12, I would like to call them. It's kind of like nobody roots against Kansas State. You know, you always see yourself in Bill Snyder, Family Field, and, it's always a great atmosphere there, and Kansas State's always good, and they're just kind of doing their thing. But fans in Manhattan, Kansas are kind of fed up. And last year, they were primed for an excellent season, and they built a roster that was supposed to contend for a Big 10 or Big 12 champion, and they didn't. And so fans are not happy there. They lost a lot of one-score games last year. Unfortunately for them, the schedule bites them just like it bites every other Big 12 team, and they draw 5 of the top 7 odds teams in the Big 12 this year. But you have a returning quarterback in Avery Johnson. You have 71% of your roster returning from last year. The defense has to be better. This Big 12 is kind of being made on defense these days. You're seeing it's not like the late 2000s Big 12 where they're just slinging the rock all over the place. It's a lot of tough physical games out there, and Kansas State's always been known as having that great defense, and they just weren't up to the standard last year, and it cost them.
Yeah. Gonna be interested to see what they can do. They're certainly one of the preseason favorites. Like you mentioned, a lot of big tests, and we're gonna really see it. Week 0 in Ireland against Iowa State. One of the Big 12's biggest games. Right then and there, you gotta be ready to go a week before just about everyone else is. and a game that very well could make the difference between making the conference championship game and not.
Yeah, these conferences are all about big games, Will, and big games in the Big 12 happen weekly. It was hard to pick. I picked 8 of them, and it was still hard to choose from them all. But like you said, I got to start with that week 0 game. It's a conference game in Ireland. You have Iowa State and Kansas State. Iowa State has dominated. They call this rivalry Farmageddon, which I freaking love the name, which is another reason why you gotta love the Big 12 because they have cool shit like that. But Farmageddon's happening in Ireland this year. Week 0, 2 ranked teams in our new AP poll that just came out this week. And this is the huge game right off the bat, Will.
Yeah, they have farms in Ireland, right? So it kind of works still.
I don't know. I've only seen them drink whiskey and proper, what is that, Conor McGregor stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what goes on in Ireland. I know they fight people in the UFC. I know they drink whiskey, and I know they like St. Patrick's Day, I guess.
Yeah,
But
but that's gonna be, man, what an interesting first game for both of those teams right out of the bat. We talk about those non-conference games setting the tone for the season. Here's a conference game. The stakes are so much higher because this has, Big 12 championship implications, and both of these teams believe they can win the conference this year. So, yeah, noon, August 23rd. What is that, like less than a week from now, right? And we're going to really, we're going to see what's up.
yeah, all eyes for sure. That's one of the added. We saw Georgia Tech and Florida State do the thing last year, and that game really set Florida State back for the entire season. So I don't think that's going to happen to either one of these teams, but definitely a very important Big 12 game to start us off here in Week 0. The second game I want to talk about is kind of staying on the flavor of non-conference games and playoff implications, because you have a game here in Week 1 that nobody's talking about. And I got a lot to say about this Big 12 team later when we do our previews and predictions. All right? But Auburn goes to Baylor, all right, in Week 1. And Auburn's a team from the SEC. Obviously, nobody around there likes the SEC. Nobody from any conference other than the SEC likes the SEC. So that already makes it a big game. But this is a huge game for both teams because Baylor, a lot of people are sleeping on Baylor. They return a really good quarterback and really finished the year outstanding. I mean, this team went 2-4 to begin the season. It looks like Dave Aranda is getting punted out of town, right? And what do? They go on to win 6 straight games to finish the year off, all right, and start building into this year. And now everybody wants that what's next moment. And here's your opportunity on Week 1. The prime slate, you get Auburn come to town, an SEC premier program, a team that's really desperate to turn it around as well. What do you think about Auburn going to Baylor in Week 1?
Yeah, what a big test. SEC, Big 12. And if you can beat one of the SEC programs in Auburn like that, that's just going to continue that momentum that they were building towards the end of last season. And it'll be interesting to see what Baylor would be able to do once they get into Big 12 play.
Yeah, and talking about non-conference games, another important non-conference game happening in Week 1. This is Friday Night Lights at its best, folks. And it
Shout
is...
out Mike Bender.
Yes, people don't know who that is, but I get that reference, Will. Georgia Tech goes to Colorado. Now, you're going to Colorado. It's not going to be hot. It's not going to be nice. It's going to be high altitude and all that good stuff. And them boys in Georgia Tech better be ready because a lot of people are overlooking Colorado because of the whole Dion losing his kids to the NFL, finally has to have a team without his son being the quarterback. But Colorado's got 2 pretty good quarterbacks coming in. One is a 5-star true freshman and one is a transfer from Liberty. They're still battling out as we speak of who's going to be the quarterback of that team. But Georgia Tech's one of those sneaky ACC picks. I believe you picked them to win the ACC this year, but a really tough test to Colorado in Week 1.
Man, can I just say what a great week one slate we've been blessed with this year. I know 3 top 10 showdowns, that's the headline, but then you also have matchups like this, Auburn and Baylor, Georgia Tech going to Colorado. What a game that's going to be. And that's 2 teams that you would think would be in the upper echelon of their conferences. But yeah, I'm a big believer in Georgia Tech. If you saw the last video, I think they're going to be ACC champions actually. At the very least, be in the top echelon of that conference. So it's going to be interesting, though, see what Dion can do. He lost his sons, and he lost Travis Hunter. He doesn't have them coming back on the team this year. It's a lot of talent to replace.
He didn't lose his sons. They just went to the NFL, Will.
Yeah, I know, and I was saying that, and I was like, that's not coming out right.
I'm going to rattle off a couple games, and they're all going to be kind of similar in style. So it's Arizona State at Baylor. You have that game. You have the Big 12 champs versus a team on the rise in Baylor I'm really a big fan of. You have a team like TCU who's kind of in that Baylor category, riding the momentum of last year, going to Arizona State, and TCU Kansas State. That's been a huge rivalry so far in the Big 12, but you can literally pick almost any weekend in the Big 12 and pick a marquee matchup. It was so hard trying to find games to put on this list because there was just so many. The Big 12 never disappoints with entertainment, and I definitely think this year is going to be no different. Moving in to our next segment, we're going to talk about some sleepers in the Big 12, and that's hard. That's really hard in this league because you can argue that everybody could be a favorite and everybody could be a sleeper, but who are some of those teams maybe outside of the top 4 or 5 odds teams that you think could make a run at the Big 12 title, kind of like Arizona State?
Yeah, for whatever reason, I'm thinking Cincinnati. Is that a dumb pick?
No, I like that one. That was on my list, Will. That was on my
All right,
list.
let's go. Yeah,
So
they have a favorable schedule this year. They avoid a lot of those big dogs.
Yeah, 4 of the 5 of the bottom of the league this year. They get that great schedule, and my man Scott Satterfield, he said at Big 12 Media's, this is the best team that he has had since he's been there. Granted, he's only been there 2 years, all right, but I mean, people remember Cincinnati, and this team was a playoff team just a short time ago. So
Back when it was a lot harder to make the playoffs, too.
Exactly, and they were able to do all that stuff. They have a returning quarterback. They have all Big 12 tight end in Joe Royer, and they could easily be a team that sneaks up on some people. They might not win the league, but you could definitely see them ruining somebody's chances for sure. A team I want to talk about is BYU, right? Not a lot of people are talking about BYU. This is a team that won 11 games last year, Will. 11 games and didn't even play for the Big 12 championship. They returned 65% of their return in production. The offense is going to be really good this year in BYU. Now, they have a 3-man competition here at quarterback, so they're still trying to figure some things out. But the offense as a whole, they have really good receivers. They have a really good offensive line, running game. I think it's going to be one of those where you're not going to be asking that quarterback to do a whole lot. And, you know, the schedule, it's not as bad as it was last year. But I could easily see this team going on a little run where they surprise some people. People forget this team beat SMU last year, who was a playoff team. So BYU has a little bit of experience under its belt in the Big 12. That's a team definitely to watch for this season.
Yeah. Hey, I was just thinking, you know, I predicted Purdue would do really good in our Big 10 preview. Big 12 preview, if I just say any name, will you, like, think, hey, I could see that because of just how deep this conference is?
No, there's two
some
teams.
Names that,
There's two teams that I would say have zero chance of winning this thing.
Okay, who would those be?
Those are UCF and Arizona. Those two teams are going to be pretty awful. But like I said, those are teams that their over-under is 5.5, which, isn't that big of a difference between what they think Arizona State's going to win. So it's really not that off the wall. But my God, Will, if you got to do a segment on UCF winning the Big 12, this might be your last show. You might just have to stay in the closet and never be allowed to show your face in this studio ever.
Yeah.
So hopefully
No,
you
I'm
didn't
not
have that one
picking.
queued up.
I'm not. I'm not picking UCF. I was very high on UCF back in the days of 2017 and 2018. I was leading the charge like, come on, they need a shot. Give them a shot in the playoffs.
So they got smoked by Joe Burrow in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and then nothing.
yeah.
Crickets.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move in to our last segment, Will. One of your favorites, it seems like it's becoming, and that is predictions. We all love good predictions. We all love going back and looking at the video and seeing where we were right and where we were wrong, and we're going to do that. I'm going to go first this time. I'm going to let you finish this one off because, my God, if I have to sit here for 2 minutes and hear about how Purdue's going to win the Big Ten, I'm going to just turn the stream off. So I'm taking Baylor to be my conference champion in the Big 10 or Big 12 this year. They're going to take on TCU, two up-and-coming teams that I really love. I love that Baylor returns up a lot of their returning production. They're one of those teams that are over 75%. You have Sori Robertson, who I think could possibly wind himself into Heisman contention. People forget that this dude put up really good stats. He was top 10 in QBR in the nation last year. Dave Aranda, defensive mind guy, took over the defense last year. They weren't good, but another year under his belt, they've got to be better. So, this is a team that is hot and cold, but I think you have really big home games. You have Auburn and Arizona early in September. You kind of catch Arizona in that early season window. You get a team like Auburn, you can kind of spiral that momentum if you can get a big win there in week 1. But then later in the season, you get Kansas State and Utah, which are two of the favorites to win this conference also at home. So Baylor gets a good draw with the schedule, but I really think Baylor's a really good team. And as for TCU, playing them in the conference championship game, I think they could easily be one of those teams that sneaks into a playoff spot. They have a guy in Josh Hoover who's elite, like 300 yards per game, top 20 in QBR. You want to know the quarterbacks on that list from last year? It was Cam Ward, Shador Sanders. Two guys that got drafted into the NFL. So this dude is a baller. He broke the school record for passing yards last year, and nobody's talking about him. Nobody even knows who Josh Hoover is. The defense should be even better. They made a coordinator change the year before. They went from being in the hundreds in pass defense to top 25. So the leap they made there, they've also recruited extremely well. I think the reason they don't get it done in the Big 12 this year is the schedule. The schedule is really tough on them, but this is a team that was number 1 in high school recruiting in the Big 12 over the last 5 years, so they've got the talent, they've got the quarterback, and I could easily see TCU and Arlington at the end of the season.
Yeah, I could see that too, but I'm not taking either one of those teams, actually. My matchup, and I've literally been changing my mind while you've been talking because I just have no idea how this is going to play out.
Great preparation.
But I'm going to go BYU versus Texas Tech.
Nice.
All right?
I like that.
All right, yeah, we've talked about it throughout this segment, but Texas Tech, they have the big roster, and hey, maybe money can buy you success. BYU is returning a lot of guys, and last year it felt like they should have made that Big 12 championship game, right? And then they kind of blew it. Despite it being an 11-win season, you just don't hear much about it because they didn't even make the Big 12 championship. So I think they're out for revenge, and why not? I'm going to take BYU to win the Big 12. But watch, I bet neither one of those 4 teams we mentioned is going to go on to win this thing.
Most likely is how it's going to work. A question for you, Will. Who do you think the Big 12 is a 2-bid league this year, or do you think they only get one?
No, in my opinion, it's just a one-bid league. Whoever wins that conference championship game, because I think the conference champion is going to be 10-2 at best.
Yeah, it's rough coming out of the Big 12 because, like I said, it's ultra competitive. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be hard for them to get two teams. You almost kind of need a team to run the table, and then you really need like an upset in the Big 12 championship game for that to happen. So that's all we got, man. That's all I got for tonight's show, man. Hope you guys enjoyed this. It's always great having Will come in with his knowledge from the closet, even with all the distractions.
So much chaos with the smoke
we were able to get through
and
the entire show, even with the smoke alarm,
the light going out,
and all of
me
the
thinking
good stuff.
Purdue's gonna be good.
Yeah, exactly. And we just ignored that. Hopefully, we edit that out, but unfortunately,
I'm keeping it in. The people are gonna hear all about it, and Purdue, they're gonna have a good season, and I'm gonna be the only one who saw it coming.
Yeah. Anyways. But really, guys, we appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you, guys. Make sure, if you're not already, follow us on all the socials. You can find us on X. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff, man. We're keeping content coming to you daily on those. And then, obviously, we're going to continue to post these and even more towards the season. And as we get into the year, we're going to continue to do this thing. So thank you guys for watching. If you haven't, please subscribe. It's completely free, isn't that right, Will? I think we're running a promotion right now where if you subscribe to us on YouTube, it's free.
Yeah, we're giving out free YouTube subscriptions. So, gosh, if they've been watching this for more than an hour, why aren't you subscribing, right?
That is true. You're the dedicated, the real ones, and we appreciate you. And even if you didn't watch it and you just skipped to the end, we still appreciate everything you guys do for us. Thank you, guys. We will see you guys next time.